Right now, you should be seeing my Windows desktop. I prefer a clean desktop, so I try and keep things off the screen. And I have Word set up here as something I can go to. I'm using the Microsoft 365 version of Word, which is the subscription version. So let me open it up, and it opens up a blank document. Okay. I can type in text here at this point, or I can go to the file menu here and find some recent documents here that I've been working with. So here's a Q&A session summary that I created that's a document, and it shows the ribbon. This is in my OneDrive, it's in iCloud, and I have my menu across the top here. I have my ribbon control here, and then there's the document. It has a couple of headings, which are formatted text areas that are a little bit larger. It also has body text here. So it's a relatively simple document that I have with a couple of sections here. And I'd like to insert some images in here. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to put my cursor where I'd like to put that image. So I'm going to put this under introduction and question overview, just on the first paragraph underneath it. I'll put my cursor. And then I go to the insert button. And the insert button lets me insert a lot of things. I've got to create an area here by putting the cursor. So when I put the cursor in the document, I can go to the insert menu and I can insert a variety of things, but I want to go to insert an image at this point. So I'm going to click on pictures, and I can select a picture from this device, which means my computer, or my files, stock images, which is part of a library that Microsoft provides to you as part of Microsoft 365, or online pictures, which will take me to a variety of online sources that Microsoft will go to. Regardless of where you get the picture from, it's going to insert it where the cursor is. So if I select this device, it'll open up the pictures I have on this device. So I have something called an image for Tech Explorer Community. That's a graphic. It's a PNG type image, and this will show PNG images as well as JPEG images. And I just select it, and then I click on Insert. Okay, and it's going to put it in the document like this. Now, if you look to the right here, just where to the right of my mouse cursor is, there's a little icon, and that icon is going to help me position the image and determine how the text and the image are related to each other. There are also some corner dots here, and when I move my mouse over the dots, you'll see that they change the way the mouse appears. So when I move my mouse over here and I see this double arrow, if I click on my mouse and I slide my mouse down to the right, I can adjust the size of this image. Okay. And when I adjust the size of the image, you see that this word "the" is positioned right after here. I'm going to click in front of the T with my cursor, and I'm going to hit the Enter key or the Return key, and that will act as a carriage return and will move the text down one line. So now I have an image, I have text above it, and I have text below it. Let's click on this little icon here, and it says Layout Options. Okay, so it's going to show layout options. The standard option when you insert an image into a document is called Inline with Text. That means it acts just like it would a word or a character that you would type, is that it takes up space and it occurs after a piece of text and before a piece of text. And you can use this to position it between the text. there are some options called text wrapping. Okay, text wrapping will control how the text is wrapped around or behind or in front of the image. I'm not going to change the size of the image, okay? Now, what I can do is if I don't like the way things worked out here, I can go back to my back button here and I can backtrack this to get the image back to the way it was when it first got inserted. There's still this little icon here called layout options, and it'll say inline with text. What happens if I click with text wrapping? Well, not much, because the image is full size. It is the full margin. You can see the margin up here is 6.5, and the margin here is 1. And the image was inserted with the full size width of the document within the margins when I inserted it. If I go back to inline with text and I make my image smaller, you can see there's some kind of funky thing going on here with the image and the text being here. But if I click on this and I select with text wrapping, this starts to change the way the text lays out in relationship to the image. So if I wanted to have the text wrap to around the image, or if I want to have the text wrap around in the center of the image or to the left of the image, and I can move the image around with any of these. So I'm going to select with text wrapping here, and I'm going to select my image here by moving my mouse cursor over it, and I'm going to move the image to the right. I can actually start to drag and drop this image around, and I'm going to get this arranged here. Now, I don't like the fact that this paragraph kind of interferes here, but if I make the image smaller, I can get some interesting layouts here if I want to, where the text is on the left and on the right, and I can change the wrapping to be a little bit tighter here. That moved the left margin a little bit closer, barely noticeable. So you can see that left text margin just moves in and out, just tight, or I can move it to something a little bit slightly different, or where I can move it above or below. And when I'm using these, I have the ability to grab the image and move it around a little more flexibly. Now you can see there's no text wrapping to the right here. That's because I've got text above and text below. But if I select wrapping with it like this, I'll end up with text to the right or to the left, depending on where I position that image. So if I go to inline with text, it brings it back like this. And you'll notice that I can't, if I try and click on this image and move it, I can't move it by dragging it around. So the inline with text fixes the image with a position on the text on the document and doesn't give you the ability to actually drag and drop it around, whereas with text wrapping does. Now, there's two other interesting ones here. If you see these little tooltips that pop up, sometimes they'll tell you a little bit tight, through, square, top and bottom, or behind. So if I click on behind, you can see now the text, the image is behind the text. Not easy to read, but if you have a very light colored image or you wanted to push text over an image, of, say, a landscape or a diagram or something like that, you have the ability to do that. Or I can put it on top of the text where it blocks the text, and you can make the image transparent and have it move, do it so that you see the text through it. Now, that would be something you do with the image editing tools. Now, two other things. The image is going to move with the text. Now, what that means is that it's going to be, I'm going to be able to position it and move it around with text. I'm going to put this inline here. If I want to fix the position on the page, that means that image will stay in the same space on that page. So if I add a couple of lines of text here, you can see Sometimes the image is going to move with the text. It's going to be modified or changed if I do something here. And I can add some text. You can see how the image is going to move with the text. But if I select this other option, fixed position on page, then as I try and type things, you can see the image has not moved where I have positioned it. So those are important options to think about when you're looking at it. Where do you want to have it? Where do you want it fixed? So there's a few things there. Now there's also more options. You can really fine tune these very, very specifically. You can change your horizontal alignment. You can use what's called a book layout, which includes margins. You can give it an absolute position, which means it's going to stay there, or what's called a relative position relative to something on the page. And you can manage your vertical alignment. Okay, so alignment's probably the most useful tool because you can align it to the left or to the centered here or to the right if you wanted to, and change that alignment if you're interested in doing it. Whereas with some of the other tools, you may or may not be able to do that. Okay, so just something to think about if you're ever wondering, how do I get that image really exactly centered? There is a tool with the image layout options to be able to do that. And you can do it with any of these text wrapping. As soon as I go back to inline with text, you can see these options, move with text and fixed position on page. They are grayed out because it's going to move like it's a piece of text. And I can't do any of these position options. They are all grayed out as well. So if you're wondering why they're grayed out, just change your wrapping so that you get text wrapping of some kind going on with your image. It doesn't matter which text wrapping you use. Just as soon as you use text wrapping, you'll have access to these position options. You'll also be able to see the text wrapping here. You can say wrap text both sides, left or right. So if I move this image over a little bit, okay, and I want text wrapped on the left and the right, that's what I'm getting now. But let's say I just want the text to wrap on the right side only. If I click this and I click this, you can see it left white space here. So these are all options that are interesting to experiment with. If you want to, you can always go back to inline with text and reset it, or use your back key to do it as well. So that these are options that really give you a lot of flexibility in terms of aligning your image wherever you'd want it to be. Now, obviously, if you want another effect, let's move our cursor down here. Let's insert another image, a picture from this device. And let's take a picture of the Colosseum here. And let's take this one. It's got an interesting stock art image here. Okay, this is a graphic I used for one of my tech topics. I'm going to change the image here. I'm going to make sure that it is behind the text, but you can't read the text, can you? So let's look at the image here. And if I go up to the image, I have some effects here that I can use. I can use something called transparency. So you can see how as I move across here with transparency, I can get another look on this image, and I can put image text directly on top of an image in many ways possible to do. So by adjusting your image and the text, you can do a few things. Now, one of the things you might see also is this tiny little anchor that tells you that this image is anchored in that position because I'm using the formatting here. And if I change the formatting or I move the image around, I can modify where that anchor is located and positioned. You can see that anchor move up and down wherever I move it. That tells you where that image is anchored to and what text it's connected to in some way. So you have a lot of options to be able to work with this and move these types of things around. And again, if you see an image like this and it's okay, you just want to move the text down, just click your cursor in front of the next text and just click your enter key, and that will move it around. So another couple of ways you can do things with this. These work exactly the same way on a Mac or on Windows in terms of arranging images and moving the images around. And you can insert other things as well. You can insert, as I mentioned, shapes. So if you wanted to have this text highlighted in some way and you wanted to use a shape behind it, you can pick a shape like this and you can draw something on your image as well, your text. It blocks it, but let's put this behind the text and let's change the effect of it. Let's fill it with something really light, a very light color like yellow. And so you can highlight something by doing that with a shape and positioning it. A shape, an image, an icon, or even something called a 3D model is all positioned in the same way using the formatting tool here for how it's going to be formatted and laid out. You're using the same layout options because it considers these graphics rather than just a specific type of thing. You can even do a screenshot directly from a clip here. So we can take a clip of my screen right here, and it'll insert it right into your Word document right away. And if it's not positioned right, you can say, you know, I really didn't like the way this was positioned. So you can change your wrapping, move it down, and then go to your you move it around with your mouse, and you have a lot more flexibility of where you can position it and modify it when you're doing it this way. So you have a number of options there. And if you don't like it, you can always click the undo option. So a lot of it's just a matter of experimenting with what you might like or what might be interesting to you in terms of what you want to do. Another way of working with images is to open up a new document using a template, okay? There are a lot of templates that you can access. We can search for templates that are business, cards, flyers, letters, education, resumes, holiday. So let's take holiday. We've got holidays coming up. And these are templates that are available for you to use. Here's a holiday party invitation. And if I want to create a document with this, I can use it and it's already formatted. I just have to change the text and start writing it and saving it. This is all formatted for me. So templates are another way to work with images. So let's find a template that's a flyer, for example, and we can find a flyer that might have a picture already in it. And if we like that picture, we can use it from the start. So if you don't want to think about how you want to lay out an image or how you want to do something, you can find a library. There are literally thousands of templates online, from missing cats to events to other activities. These are just different ideas for flyers. There are information on letters and education and resumes. And these are just suggested searches. So if we wanted to find something else in holiday here and maybe use this season's greeting card format, this is formatted to print out as a card for you. You can use it to create and it'll give you this card. And if you want to change this picture, you just select the picture and you can insert your own picture if you want to, and just delete this. And it has a blank space for you to insert your own picture. And you don't even have to think about doing all of this design and layout or other things on it that might be more complicated to work with. When I want to insert, I go to insert And way over at the right here is something called text box. Okay. If I click this, I can insert a simple text box. It is a shape and it behaves just like an image. And I can move it around and format it and change its size and shape on the page if I want to, instead of using it as a another something, an image, it's now a text box. So I can change this and I can move these over to the right. I can insert pages here. I can insert and change this to a text wrapping. And now these are shapes that I can manipulate and move around independently of any text. This is a line of text right here that I'm looking at. This is a text box that has text inside of it. So this can be moved, it can be repositioned in any way, but it is a box as opposed to a line of text. Well, and also you can even go to this design function and you can select a whole bunch of themes. You can see how it changes the fonts and the colors and a few other things that automatically, and I can just do it with a click and see what kind of a theme I might want. The layout stays the same, but you can see these headings now are different color than they were before. And if I don't like that theme, I can go back and I can say, gee, I'd like to pick another theme. And there's a lot of themes. These are just a few. There's wood type, gives you a different formatting of text. So it changes the whole document all at once without you having to really think about much of anything. So if you want, gee, I'd like a little, another type of look, or I'd like something a little, fancier or something like that. Even browse for themes, and it'll take us, to our documents, or we can go to Office, on the web and find even more layout as well. There's just a tremendous number of tools that you can use, and you can select theme colors as well. So if you like these themes, you like a color scheme, you can choose these and change the colors in addition to changing what the document looks like. Picture format, it's because I have the picture selected, I can still go through other menu items, but when I go to picture format, it gives me the ability to format this picture.
Okay.
So if I wanted to make this more transparent, I can make it more transparent, and then I can drag it behind this text if I want to format it that way. Well, thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, Bob.